Good morning, buenos dias. We are on our third ECOS lab. We are in the middle of Sierra Espuña at the Hotel Jardines La Santa, and I'm again surrounded by amazing musicians from the 4 residency ensembles, and we have 3 promoters from different parts of Europe to talk about early music and diversity. We have from the UK, from United Kingdom, we have Delma Tomlin. She is the director from the National Center of Early Music of York. Buenos dias. We also have Johannes Rantanen. He's the festival director of the Sastamala Gregoriana in Finland. Buenos dias. And we also count with the presence of Veerle Declerck. She is the Deputy Director for Music at the BOZAR in Brussels, and she's also the President of REMA, the European Early Music Network. Buenos dias.
Goedemorgen.
I'm also here with 4 ensembles. We have Ibera Auri, Teledone Consort, Liturina Ensemble, and Trio Aido. And we are here to talk again about the challenges of the 21st century and what is our goal, what is our responsibility as early music musicians and culture agents with the challenges of the 2030 agenda. What can we do to help and to promote the action for the demographical challenge, the sustainability, and today in particular the diversity in our programming and also in the rest of the society. At ECOS Festival, we are convinced that we want a more diverse cultural offer, a more diverse and inclusive society, and this is what we are here to discuss. Is it our challenge, is our responsibility as early music musicians or promoters? And if it's so, what can we do for that? I would like to give the word in first for Delma Tomlin. Delma, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you. I run a building-based organization in York. There is, frankly, no magic bullet about how it is that we diversify our audiences and encourage artists to work in a more diverse community. Our first task, I think, is to truly believe that it is really important that we do this. It's not just a hurdle to be passed through in order to gain funding. There is genuinely a reason for encouraging a much, much broader audience than just those who would, if you like, normally come to your concerts. Under the law, of course, we have a duty of care within the Equality Act to eliminate discrimination and to foster equality and obviously to promote good relationships across society. As a building-based organisation and in a redundant church, we actually have our own community around us. And from the very outset, 22 years ago, we've been very careful to programme as broadly as possible, so that we're programming world music and jazz and folk as well as early music, and trying to encourage our young musicians particularly to reach out to those communities and to work with them. So not to turn your back on those audiences, but to positively engage. And particularly with the world music program, of course, we bring in very different audiences. We had an Iranian artist quite recently, and seemingly everybody who lives in the UK came for that, and obviously that's a rather different thing. We have to provide by law a safe, supportive workplace where everyone's talent and contribution is recognised. It's really important that as an arts centre, as well as that, of course, that we have a whole variety of projects which positively engage with the community. For example, we have a regular singing programme every month called Cuppa and a Chorus, which is entirely open access. Yes, it's some early music, but it's all sorts of different genres together. And that's about bringing people who wouldn't necessarily think about going to a concert, but coming together, singing, learning from each other, and most importantly, having a tea break with cake. And generally having companionship and friendship. As a venue, we are used as for all sorts of other things, as a wedding venue and as a polling station. And although that's not entirely relevant to the early music community, it helps to ensure that we are regarded well, loved by the local community. And in funding terms, we have to write extensive plans about what it is that we're going to do to in terms of equality and what the Arts Council here, our funding body, call the creative case for diversity. And we're monitored very, very clearly on that. And if we don't come to certain standards, we will lose our funding. As Jorge knows, we run and have been a key part of the emerging programme since the outset. And that has been a particular joy for us because that allows us to work with younger ensembles and to start to teach them about how they might work within other community environments, whether that's a hospital or a library, as well as the sort of educational ones that you might anticipate. We haven't for a single moment got there yet, but we do see many different faces in our audience and indeed our artists than we did 20 years ago. We just continue to work as best we can, but it is hard work. There are no easy answers to this particular one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delma. Now we are listening to Johannes Rantanen from the Sastamala Gregoriana. So Johannes, buenos días again.
Buenos días, Jorge, and thank you so much for having me over here. So my festival is a one-week festival that is organized every July in this very rural area of Finland. It's a small town of 25,000 people. Our main venue is a medieval stone church, which has beautiful acoustics. But how to get to the church might be a bit of a problem because, you know, it's quite secluded in its beautiful area where there's not too much of public transportation, how to get there, at least to the venue itself. But there are train stations nearby, you can have bus connection and all of this. But other than this, I would like to actually talk a bit about language and how all of these kind of things can be told through diversity and what kind of implementations my festival has done with other local regional festivals that we are part of this festival association, regional one in Finland. So I don't know if you have heard about the principles of safer space, for example, that UN has been promoting for all kinds of organizations and people to implement. And those are one of the principles that could be implemented throughout every organization. Is it an enterprise? Is it a festival? Is it a student union? Whatever. But this comes to the fact that there would be an idea that everybody feels safe and welcome to be in that venue, in that safe space, whatever it is. And I think this is one thing that every festival could take into action. Of course, as Delma said earlier, we are monitored by the people who give us grants, who give us money, who fund us. We need to tell them what kind of action do we take with climate crisis, what kind of action we take with sustainability, with accessibility, all of these things. And we need to tell them how we make those things work. When you think about the church that is secluded from rest of the city, it's in this natural site where it's difficult to get. And when we talk about early music, usually churches and early music go hand in hand. So this is one of those things as well that can be taken into question, that early music should be maybe brought to places where it's not maybe that typical to have it. So it's always interesting, as Jorge said, with the ECOS, you have this cave type of venue, that to have different types of venues that reach out to different types of people as well. Bringing early music to foster homes or hospitals or venues that are not that typical can broaden the audience and can broaden and make it more diverse quite easy in a way. And also church is an interesting venue if you think about it otherwise, because it also sets limits sometimes to the repertoire that you're performing. And this is also a question, if you want to consider themes that ponder the questions of queerness or minorities, there might be sometimes a moment when the church might not be too easy to bring those kind of subjects to be performed on stage, for example. So this is why it's also a very interesting idea, in my opinion, to bring this kind of principles of safe space where everybody can feel welcome, that they are not being criticized or put into a marginal in any other way. So this is one of those principles that I think every festival and every organization could take into the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Johannes, for sharing these principles and your ideas. It's very nice to listen ideas from different parts of the world and different perspectives, diverse perspectives, as Veerle said before we started. We have a diverse panel today, and let's listen to the third speaker, Veerle Declerck. Buenos días.
Buenos días, goedemorgen. Hello, everyone. I started, in fact, I wanted to tell a bit the same things as Delma. I won't repeat them, but we're also like a building-based organization. And we also offer this wide range of music. So from early music to jazz, electro, world music. And besides that, we offer also a lot of exhibitions, film, debates. So BOZAR is a very diverse cultural house, palace, we call it. And so we think we could reach a very diverse public. But of course, we know that there are a lot of people we can't reach. And we have also, like in York, a project about singing Brussels. And Cantania, that are two projects. And why? Because I think singing is the most easiest way of an entrée, of an entrance to making music together. We are very happy that our audience engagement department got 2 new people to work really on musical projects. We are very happy with that. And they are really developing this Singing Brussels and Cantania project in a different way. We really want to make with choirs, with group of persons who wants to sing and who never entered BOZAR. We really want to develop a project with them, with their roots, with their music, but trying to find something that they all have in common. And it's Brussels. It's living here in this city. All these nationalities together, and it's only one project. It's an important project to us, but it's a very concrete way of trying to involve the population of Brussels, because as you know, we are the capital of Europe, and we have a lot of Eurocrats living in Brussels. So the difference in level and education here in Brussels is very high, as I suppose in every big city. So we try to reach out more to the to all kind of populations of Brussels. Personally, for my, what also helped, what we started a few years, of course, due to COVID, is a digitalization. We use it as a method of to enter in elderly homes with recordings made here during COVID period when artists could not go. Or were not allowed to enter in elderly homes. So digital revolution, we call it in BOZAR, because we really were like nowhere with the digital content, and we try to use it also as a method of diversity. In my own programmation of early music, and classical music in general, I try to create awareness with my colleagues. I am the first female programmer in 100 years here in BOZAR. So I think it's also a question of awareness, because my colleagues often are not aware that they only have male conductors, or that they only programmed male soloists in a certain series. And it's not because they are women that you have to choose them, but maybe it's worth to look for interesting female composers, but also artists. There's so many levels of diversity. Also in programming, you learn something in a conservatory, but probably if you look to the composers you were confronted with, I think 99% will be male. So I think as we also have to encourage ensembles to open their eyes, but to open their minds to go further, also to the repertoire. It's not only Bach and Telemann and Handel, you know, there's so many other interesting composers. So you have like 100 levels of diversity, I think, yeah. And we can encourage ensembles to work on that, and we have to be aware ourselves that we have enough diversity in our programmation too. Sorry.
Thank you, Veerle.
Yeah.
That was so interesting, and that was exactly my next question. What does it mean, diversity? Which levels of diversity do we have to care of? And also, what is our field? What is our responsibility? When does it begins, and when does it ends? Our responsibility. So, who wants to answer first?
Me? Oh, well, yes. So, I think you have, as I said, a lot of levels of diversity. We talked about color, we talked about sex, we talked about repertoire, we talk about the artists themselves. And when I'm talking repertoire, it's not only the lesser known artists of composers or female composers, but maybe we have to look more what was done in the Mediterranean area. For instance, everything was connected, and what we do now is, this is West European early music, and this is the Italian Baroque music, but we forget sometimes that like 400 years ago it was all a melting pot, and now we divide everything in different boxes. And I think we sometimes forget that before there was much more influence from other cultures, and I think we have to dare to integrate this influence again in the programs. And what I liked about the Delma project is that they integrate this early music with contemporary. We are living in the 21st century, so I like this idea of not only open it up, use our history, use our heritage to make connection with today. So I think it's a good example of how can you be diverse in the way you program. But I think you have really dozens of levels of diversity.
That's interesting. What is your perspective, Delma, from the United Kingdom?
Certainly, it is our responsibility to take this seriously and to try and understand other people's perspectives. One of the things that we have done, in the same way as Veerle is talking about, is to encourage young composers to think about working with early music ensembles. So for the past 10 years or so, we've invited an ensemble for each year to look at a really quite small part of early music repertory and history, and we've gone out to the schools and to young composers to ask them to write for that group, not pastiche, but within the style of looking at that element of early music history and repertory, and to present their ideas of that. And then we've worked in very open, collaborative workshops at the NCM with all of the ensemble, so that the young composers get to hear, if you like, how difficult it is to write for human voices or human instruments rather than computers, and to talk about that amongst themselves. And then that's recorded, and as it happens, it's the collaboration with BBC, so then it's on the radio. But that has then given us a cohort of young composers to whom, when we have a new commission coming up, which we do for William Byrd for next year, for example, we can write to them, and they are, if you like, a package of composers available with us, who would potentially write a new piece for us. So you're engaging with a broader community. That it's not, they're not economically diverse as a group, and they are largely still very much a British white, very well educated community. But it is one element of increasing that diversity. And as Veerle says, you go for that within you. We're still always looking for quality. We're always looking for being comfortable within our working environment and not doing things that we can't do, but to make a difference. I guess that's what we're always aiming to do. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Delma. How do you see it from the north, Johannes?
Thank you. I was just thinking about the diversity question from the point of view of an organizer. When you think about the audience, you think about the performers, you think about the repertoire, you think about all the collaborations that you can have. And I mean, this might sound a bit silly, but in a way, having concerts that are free, that is part of the diversity as well, that you can have concerts that are free of charge for the audience to come. And then again, you can have different types of audiences in different types of concerts. You want to bring the concerts to those different kind of venues that will appeal to different kinds of people as well. And this makes it also interesting when you think about that. As an organizer, you have, of course, the responsibility to offer a program that is diverse. You want to invite performers who also represent that idea, that they are diverse. They bring a repertoire that is both more contemporary and then again more ancient, if you want to put it. And this might be also a trivial thing, but if we think about early music, it's nice that, as Veerle said before, these kind of boundaries between world music, early music, or I mean early music, we usually think about it maybe through the lenses of these white Western European composers who happen to be men. And then again, we have a lot of repertoire that is written by female or then again outside of Europe. And this puts it in context, like, what do we want to define as early music? Of course, this is the long continuation that we have had a discussion in Rema, for example, before. But I also want to point out that even though we have a lot of early music festivals, lots of them are Baroque festivals in the end. They do produce a lot of concerts of Baroque music. And this is an interesting idea that I think it's also as our promoters' responsibility to bring out all the different types of seasons and eras of early music and represent those through hiring and booking different kinds of ensembles that represent the medieval era, the Renaissance, the Baroque. And that's why I was very interested to hear about that. Some of you ensembles have this idea of focusing on this transition moments when something is changing in the field of early music with the instruments that are being used or the techniques and so on. So there are so many topics, so many aspects that to tackle and to pay attention to. But I think that as an organizer, you need to think about all different aspects, and you need to respond to those as well, because as we were talking earlier, nowadays people want to invest their time and money into something that they feel that they have a true connection with, that they find quality in it. So that's why I think it's a very, very, very interesting, and also we have a high responsibility of producing those kind of things.
Thank you, Johannes. Thank you, all the speakers. The groups are looking at me. They have full of a lot of ideas and things to tell you, and that's the nice thing also of these labs. It's not only a conference, but it's an exchange. We would like this to be a tool for the young ensembles, not only the ones that are here, but the ones that will watch this in the future, to listen to promoters from different parts of the world and important venues as we have today, the past 2 days, and to see what is important for you, what are the values you follow, and what is our responsibility as a musician. We are, it has been said a lot of times, but I'm going to say today again, we not only play and sing music, but we has been an artist, been an artist in this century is also to have a social responsibility and to be more things than only a player and a musician. And we have a lot of interesting ideas. We have also been talking not only in these labs, but during the residencies here in Sierra Espuña. So let's listen to them. I would love to give the word first to Ian Halley. He's the representative of the London-based ensemble Liturina. So Ian, good morning.
Hi. Liturina is very lucky in the sense that we're based in London, and London is an extremely diverse city. But what we need to think about is how we can tap into that diversity. And one of the main things that we've been considering is getting into schools, doing performances and workshops in schools, so we can appeal to young people and make early music accessible for them, hopefully instilling an enduring love for that music. Another project that we're working on at the moment is that we're commissioning pieces of music that are going to be paired with some of our favorite rock pieces of music. So I'm very excited to have just received our first piece by a London-based jazz composer. And I think commissioning these pieces, it's a really good opportunity for us to consider who we're asking to compose the pieces. So we want to have an array of different influences, people of different nationalities, gender, race. Final thing that we're considering at the moment and we're looking into is research into minority composers from the Baroque era. I find it quite exciting, the idea of uncovering music which has been lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. We also have Trio Aido. They are a Basel-based ensemble, and they Talita will represent them and talk and share their ideas. Talita, good morning. Or Simon. Simon is the one that will talk in first place. Simon, good morning.
Yeah, well, hi, I'm Simon Giraido. I think if we look at early music itself, it's super diverse in terms of language, style, the religion of music. And we find it interesting because in our group, we have, well, I'm Belgian, but my colleagues are Japanese. And we can totally see this dynamic, this cultural difference in our rehearsals. We're together as a group. But we see it as a strength. And yeah, one thing we've been thinking about doing is to create a program that where we include some Japanese traditional music and show how like early Western music, how it came into the churches, how that influenced harmony and stuff. Yeah, and then another last thing is that, of course, being a trend towards including composers in programs, and really welcome this trend, and we really welcome this trend. And so, yeah, which is very important.
Thank you, Samuel. We will have also two more ensembles. The first one we will listen is Iberauri. They are they're based in Valencia, here in Spain. But we will listen to Jeremy Nastasi.
Hello, and thank you very much for sharing your ideas. It was very interesting. So diversity is a central point in the vision of Iberauri. So mainly as a group, we can show it trying that each member can develop his own personality and way of being in a very practical way. For example, during rehearsals or simply also between members' relationships. We think that actually each artist must be feel free and to express his emotion and way to be on the stage. That I think that's the most important point in the career of an artist, to express himself. So actually we believe that ancient music, early music in general, is one of the bravest sectors of classical music that supports diversity and the newer sensitivities. Something we're very proud of in Iberauri is the inclusion of feminine and queer dance in our concert format. In fact, we have two programs that are based on two feminine characters, in which the main character is a woman, and but in our program it also makes visible the presence of LGBTI characters. Just to give a small example, from what it concerns the royal marriage between Anna d'Austria, Anna of Austria, yes, yeah. Anna of Austria, and Louis XIII, so Louis XIII, that was actually homosexual. So I think that it is very important to speak about these themes and these issues and normalize it, just talking it and discuss it normally. Thank you very much.
That was very interesting, Jeremy. And we will listen to Friederike from the Ledone Consort.
Hi, thank you so much for all the inspiring things that were said. It's really, really nice to hear that also programmers are really focusing on this quite important topic. I think that diversity, we can see it, of course, in generation, nationality, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, but also in locations and genres. And the Ledone Consort, we are actually one of the only ensembles in Flanders with a female manager and with a female artistic horizontal leadership. But because we are all female, we're not male excluded, of course. So we actually compensate that our entourage is completely male and the board is 50-50 and also diverse with generation, gender and sexuality. Next to it, we also work with international jazz female artists. I think for us, the ensemble, it's not only just an ensemble, we also provide a platform for each other to really empower each other and to also create this open dialogue within the ensemble. I think it's not only within the ensembles, but also we can see diversity in organization with the board, the directors, the audience, but also the teachers in the conservatories are so important in the empowerment for young musicians. And of course, the repertoire. We focus, of course, on also female composers, but I think that early music, that we have more female composers than we know of. So I really suggest that we need to do, as a sector, more research about this. And you were also talking a lot about the audience. I think if you look at the audience in a concert hall, it's always a kind of mix. The ensemble who's playing brings some kind of audience, but also you have the regular audience who is just who is really the regular ensemble of the concert hall. But you also have this new audience who you want to trigger in some kind of way, who you want to connect with, who you want to communicate with. So I think how can you trigger a more diverse audience? I think through communication, with indeed technology, with a good social media, all these kind of things to really provide less boundaries between you and your audience. But let's also think, because we noticed with Deledone, we often played in churches in the beginning. And we noticed that for some people, it's really a boundary to come to this church because it has more meaning than we sometimes think as musicians. We're like, oh, great, recorders, it sounds amazing in this church. But for the audience, it has so much different meaning. So with Deledone, we also play in really social places in Brussels. We played in Pianofabriek lately, and we had this really beautiful, diverse audience with early musicians in the audience, but also new people. And I think with Deledone, we really try to connect with new, a diverse and younger audience without, ignoring the audience that is already there. Because it's also, of course, important to keep connecting with the audience who is already interested in early music. So yes, I think this was a...
Thank you very much, Veerle. Friederike and Veerle just shared a website on the chat. We will put also in the subtitles, but she said that a good start to discover female composers is a website called Donne with 2 N's uk.org. We will put this in the subtitles that everybody can find it. Let's listen to the reply, the feedback from the promoters. Johannes, you want to start, please?
Thank you. It was very inspiring to hear from all of you, all your ideas and stories. So thank you very much for sharing those. And I would just like to continue with the dialogue of the last idea about this church being the venue and how it might be a thing, because this is something that we might not always remember. For some people, churches are very holy and they're very sacred places where things have to go the way they have always gone. So this is the thing that for some people, having a concert that you need to pay for to come inside a church might be a problem. Then again, there are those people who I know, for example, don't want to come to hear a concert in a church because it's a church, because they don't really want to go inside a church because they think it's a place of fairy tales, all that. They have a very atheistic negative response to being inside a church, for example. So to continue this discussion, that if you are able to take your performances, your wonderful, because you are researchers, you do research about your program, you want to bring a part of history, tell a story to the audience. You want to find that audience who's willing to listen to that and engage with that and want to also root for you to move on and continue telling that story onward. So that's why I think if you are able to find a patron, a festival, whatever that collaborative partner with you is, to continue sharing that story with you, helping find the even deeper meanings and all of those, it's incredibly important. And it's also incredibly important for the festivals that we find these kind of ensembles like you who want to share the stories with us, that we are able to, in cooperation, share with the audiences. And I'm very inspired by all the stories that you have shared now. So thank you very much for all of those.
Thank you, Johannes. I just remember there's also a very interesting map made by the Spanish musicologist Shakira Ventura. We will also put the link on the credits of this map of female composers. But first, let's listen to Delma Tomlin and how did you find the interventions of our ensembles?
As Johannes, it's really inspiring to hear you. And of course, if you have passion in your voice when you talk, then you immediately engage people, you engage your audience, whoever they are, and they want to hear you, they want to follow you. So to share your passion is really, really important, and to tell a story. We've talked about the fact that none of us can change the world, but you can make these positive starts. And clearly some of you around the table are really, really engaged in that diversity discussion, and good on you. I would suggest that you always get to know your local community, that you reach out to them. They won't be coming to you in your church or your concert hall. So you do have to go out and find them to some extent. And the local libraries, certainly within the UK, is a great way of meeting people who perhaps haven't come across music before. If you are based in a specific part of London, then reach out to other organizations around you and make friends with different cultural organizations. That the whole, if you like, mashing together of early music and world music can be quite wonderful. It doesn't always work, and it's sometimes quite difficult to get an audience to quite know whether they're coming to this or that or the other, but the younger audiences will just love it. And the group that's talking about working with the Japanese community and early music be fascinating as to how you get on. We worked for years with a group called the Orlando Consort, who are 4 medieval vocalists who spent a lot of time researching the music, basically the Spanish music, which had gone off to Goa. And we did fantastic projects for quite a long time, and introducing somebody else's culture, but excuse me, genuinely, always with quality, always with absolute sense of security in your own musical environment. Again, don't try and be something that you're not, but just explore these other communities and cultures. Think about relaxed performances, whether you, again, the audience either don't pay very much or are encouraged or allowed to talk and to respond. We in early music and classical music really hate people who so much as open a sweet packet as you're going along, but different younger communities don't understand that, and they will engage, but in a very different way. So do that. And of course, always be true to yourself. Enjoy the process. If you are going to work in schools, you nearly need to understand how to engage with the audience that you're on about. Do your training beforehand. In the UK, Ian, if you know Cherry Forbes at OAE, I would highly recommend that you ask her to come and work with you for a morning, just on how to work, particularly with younger audiences, how to relax them, how they sit on cushions and, you know, engage with you rather than talk to them all the time. It's all about that, to keep on repeating the word, engagement and passion. So thank you. Good luck. Yeah, I'm sure you'll all be absolutely terrific because you're clearly well on the way. And thank you.
Thank you, Delma. Muchas gracias. What do you feel? What do you think, Veerle?
Yeah, what can I add? No, I want also to add my admiration for all of you. You are really aware of this importance of being diverse, of reaching out to a diverse public. Maybe I want to come back to what Delma said about storytelling. My experience today is that we have to offer public an experience. If they want to listen to music, they put on their headphones and they look for on Spotify, or when we are lucky, a disc. So we have to offer them something more than only a wonderfully performed music. And I think certainly a younger public is not used anymore to sit for 19 minutes still on a chair. I don't suggest you to let them dance or something, but telling a story can be very interesting to keep the focus and to have them with you in your music making, but also in your storytelling. Recently I assisted the concert of Olaf Vikingursson, who is not playing sonatas as a whole anymore, but he took one part and he matched it with another part of another composition. And I think someone of maybe the older generations could find this very unrespectful, but I think the strength of it is that he was telling a story. He was also talk to your public, try to engage them. And I think when I heard from Trio Aido, for instance, this idea of connecting Japanese traditional music with early music, it's a wonderful story you can tell. Try to invent a story of someone who is traveling and who meets this other culture. And so you have story to tell. The same for sorry, I made some notes. Jeremy, you were telling that you had this program with Louis XIII. Do you talk, make us, don't be educational, or but you can create a story about this, and inclusion of feminine character is not diverse enough for me. That's why I put the website of the female composers on it. But you can tell stories, and don't be afraid to, from time to time, just take a micro and tell something. People adores it. It's the proximity that becomes real, because we were all behind our screens, and we need this contact. So I think telling stories, it's a fantastic idea. Don't be afraid of creating a musical story. Well, not don't be afraid, do that. I think that's the most important thing. See that the pieces you play, that they are relevant one to another, and that it is consistent. And then I think, well, I don't know if it has anything to do with diversity. Yes, because I think you can reach the different public when you have this storytelling aspect very much elaborated. We can reach a public that is not used to sit 90 minutes on a chair if you have this storytelling aspect, I think. That's what I wanted to add, yeah.
That is so interesting. Actually, we made a storytelling workshop with the Ledone Consort the first day already, and we are doing it tomorrow in this career development program of the ECOS Lab with Trio Aido and Liturina. And it's just how to see also to have a perspective of the concert, of the performance of the concert, what is happening from the perspective of the audience. What are they feeling? What do they have to learn in your concert? What do they have to think during listening to you? What does it remains also when you go out of the concert, and how is their experience? So the experience, for example, on Friday with Ibera Auri was really nice, and they do mostly also some of the things that you said. So I will give the word to Jeremy, that they tell us how do they tell the story of Louis XIII and their Marizápalos.
So in our concert format, we try to tell the story of this younger Marizápalos, and in the other program of Anne of Austria. Sorry, I have the habit to tell it to say it in Spanish or French. But actually, we do it. We alternate narration and pieces, and early Baroque pieces that are really connected to the life of these two characters. For example, in the program of Anne of Austria, we alternate sacred pieces, because the central meaning of the program is the noses, actually, the marriage between Anne of Austria and Louis XIII. And the same thing of Marizápalos. Marizápalos was a singer and a dancer. So in the program, we actually play the dances that she used to play. We played the Españoleta, that was the dance she really heard, the dance she used to play, and she played it in front of the king. So I think this is a very nice experience for the public. It can show something. Okay, it's a narration, it's a story, but it's also the truth. We are not inventing something, we are telling the truth. Thank you.
I must add that Gabriel Belcheri, the tenor of Ibera Auri, and Laia Blasco, the soprano, they are such Baroque characters. And if you see the concert and you see the way they speak, the way they move, the way it's just also the pronunciation, the use of the French and the Spanish. Do you really have a experience of being there, and that they they have this fantasy, this Baroque fantasy in their lives, and they really express it, and that's something that's why they were also selected here, because the experience, you see something really unique. And this is sorry, forgive my opinion, but this is also something that we have to have in early music, to have unique moments, diverse moments, not everybody giving the same thing in the same way. And that's something we are looking for, that we find our personalities and we express this in the stage. And that's something I'm sure we will experience. We experienced already with Ibera Auri, and we will have with Liturina and Trio Aido, and we also saw with the Letone Consort. So I'm giving the word to Friederike, that I'm sure she has a lot of ideas to bring here in the table.
I almost feel guilty now, Jorge. Yes, I think you're also right that quality should be priority. And if I hear Jeremy talk about his storytelling, I think it's amazing what you do. The storytelling is really about identity also of the ensemble, and how to project your values and how to be yourself. And I see also how you perform. I think that's so important. And for the Ledone Consort, we started as this early music ensemble, playing in a church, wearing high heels in black, very traditional. And then we were like, oh no, we have to change. We have to change something, because it's so distant, it's so formal, and you want to connect to all the audience. Why always play in black? It's so distant for us. So we really created our own style of how to perform, how to connect also with the public, to make it more, to can also make this connection, not just be the musicians on stage, but also be the performance. Because I think you can play, of course, repertoire, and we love the early music repertoire because it's so beautiful, and I think we're all in love with it. But we shouldn't play just repertoire behind each other, like, oh, this piece, and now we go to this piece. We should really make this story like Jeremy does with his ensemble. Like, how can you create this performance? Because we see, yeah, this younger generation, it's too much, 90 minutes. Sit down, clap at the right moment, please, because otherwise we will be annoyed. Like, don't just really connect with you, like do a performance. And that's why we did the live electronics performance. It's 45 minutes in total. And it's really, we created this around identity, because it's a story about actually us as the Ledone Consort, because we have different nationalities. Kinga and Serena from the Ledone came to Brussels, and how can we include them also in the ensemble, and how the search for identity. So we also have samples with different languages, Hungarian, Italian, Dutch, but English. It also comes into our performance. And I also think it's sometimes a challenge, because we work with social organizations in Brussels, but sometimes we feel they're a bit less professional than the bigger halls. And I think the bigger halls, yes, I think everybody has certain, like Jorge said, we're all social agents, we're all a bit responsible. And the diversity, yes, because yesterday we had the Tamar from Wonderfield, and apparently she told us that she had this quota for Wonderfield, that every group should perform at least one piece of a female composer. And I thought that was really interesting to do this. So yeah, and I also, a final idea I had was, I have friends who are not musicians, and when they come to this early music festival, they're always like, is this a festival? You just sit down in a concert hall and then you listen. It's not like Werchter. It's not like the festivals that we know. So maybe we should also think about, like, how can we make an early music festival more as a festival, like with other genres? Maybe we can also learn a little bit from them in a way, and to really lower the boundaries for everybody.
So that that sounds like a direct question for the promoters. How can we fight against these boundaries, and from the perspective of the promoters, but also what can we do as musicians and young ensembles to build a new concept of festivals and more diverse and more accessible? Who wants to respond?
Well, I mean, if I can just continue a little bit of that, what was said about the younger audience and engaging them and telling the story and how to make it so that it leaves an impression, it gives something to the audience and also to the performers. I have seen many very technically very excellent performances that have left me felt like feeling a bit cold in the end, because it has been technically wonderful and all that, but then it has been this kind of stilized, very cool, cold, you know, it lacks a bit of the soul, I'm sorry to say. Sometimes those kind of very high polished performances, as I said, technically wonderful, but otherwise I feel like they lack the soul, they lack the story. So I'm thinking about the younger audiences, the children who, as festivals, as promoters, as performers, I think we always have a bit of a responsibility to teach, to educate one way or another the audiences through play, through music, whatever the way is. But I think about those meaningful moments. We never know if one of the members in the audience who sees you perform give a performance that makes an everlasting impression, changes their lives, makes them want to be a musician like you. So that's why I think about nowadays, it's incredibly important that there is this soul, there is this storytelling aspect. One way or another, I'm not telling that every show needs to be some kind of like, oh, there's something spectacular, wonderful, like unimaginable that nobody did see beforehand coming. But I mean that those kind of performances have left me, I think, the biggest mark and have made an impression when it has felt like it's real. It's maybe a bit out of the box. It's something not maybe what you're used to. I mean, it can be just small things. I mean, the quality has to be there still. I'm not saying that, but I'm thinking about the younger audience, especially, that when they want to feel that they are engaged, if they see that the performers are diverse, the program is diverse one way or another, and it reflects the society as it is nowadays, that it's not just white Western European male written composed music performed by men in black suits, or for example, or something like that. It's incredible how big effect small things can have when they're just put together, and when it's real, when there's the soul, when there's the act that you want to tell a story that will make your heart feel very warm.
Thank you, Johannes. Veerle?
Well, to answer on your question, what can the young ensembles do or musicians do? I think, well, start to tell your story to the promoters. I am so embarrassed that I was not, well, I have to say, I saw once the name Declerck, but I didn't look further into your ensemble. Why? I don't know, but maybe if you would contact me and tell you your story, the aim, the goal you want to achieve with your project, with your concerts, I think I would be interested, and I would say, of course, we need this kind of project. So I think what you could do as musicians is really not selling a program, but just tell what you want to tell. If you have this, tell what your purpose is with your concert, who you want to reach with this, how you think you can reach this cible, how do you say it in English, this target group, or I think, tell the promoters the added values of your concert, that it's, you have, of course, the music, and you have, of course, the quality, but tell what they can do with it towards other groups and towards other publics. And I think this could be interesting for all of you, and not only for that. I just gave the example because you're living in Belgium, and crazy that I never, well, once saw your name popping up, but yeah, promote yourself maybe a bit more with, maybe you did, and maybe I just skipped the mail. It's also possible because we have like hundreds of propositions every day, but make sure that your message pops up very clearly.
Thank you, Veerle. Actually, we had a workshop yesterday with Trio Aido, and there was the question: do we mail? Do we do social media? How do we get our message? And as you were talking, everybody was nodding here and saying yes, yes, we have to do that. What do you think, Talita, from what Veerle just said?
Yes, so it's great to hear that that is exactly what the promoters, the programmers, the concert programmers are also looking for, and that you're very clear about it. We are oftentimes so focused on the, so to say, more musicological or theoretical part of the music, and that is how we tend to also, in general, kind of construct our music, which is of course also a very important aspect. But then we were also feeling this, not frustration, but that we want to deliver to the audience, but then we didn't quite know how to, or we weren't getting the reaction by doing these, so to say, traditional things, but the reaction that we want by doing these traditional things. And this is why we are now exploring also the possibility of just telling the story, but then also in a different way, so that it's really more accessible to the audience. And my question would be, as you also mentioned, it is really important that we get to know the audience, but if they're in remote places, how can we actually get to know the audience? For example, if you go to a festival and you will be performing different kind of concerts, we will be performing in a church, but we're going to be also performing for children. But then, depending on the countries, we would not know. And then, can we, for example, simply ask the festival organizers? I mean, for who would be the right person to contact or seek help, and how would we in general be able to find them? If there are such tips, I mean, yeah, that would be very helpful to know.
To some extent, you are all doing it. And that's what's part of what is so impressive at the moment, that you are talking to promoters. You are part of this. You've been part of IAP. Litorina were part of the York competition this summer. You are already being out there. You are, in that sense, telling your story and sharing it with people. But I'm afraid you do have to be business people as well. And within your group, you not one person can do everything. So whoever it is that you choose should be the publicist and the social media person, is different to the person perhaps who organizes all the rehearsals and all the rest of it. Otherwise, it's too much responsibility for just one of you. But you all need to be engaged in that, I'm afraid. You can't, as it were, you can't sit back anymore. It is a different world, and it's tough that you have to be so businesslike. You should try and set up your own little tour. You should, I'm afraid, also be the person who goes and, if you like, prints out the poster and puts it up somewhere and talks to the local neighborhood community and encourages people to come. You need, if you're going to build that audience, it's hard work, but go back to that sense of your own community, it really is worth it, because from that you will develop your own friends, your own patrons, your own funders, people who will buy the CD when you finally find out how to pay for that, and to become your support group into the future. And we all need support groups one way or another. But I'm afraid so. Keep on smiling, say hello to your audience, be utterly charming, explain the story, work extremely hard, obviously on the music as well as everything else, and you will succeed. Thank you.
If I can add to this, I think what Delma told also before was try to connect first with your environment, with your local partners. Don't expect from day one to be to be invited in Brussels, you have to build up your reputation. And the advantage of working local is you have credits. You can work, and from that step it's regional, and from that step it's national, and then you can go international. But don't forget these steps, because we are all ambitious, of course, but sometimes the ambition is too high, and you really have to build up also this experience of giving concerts, talking to people, making programs, and you need the time. You have to accept that you need time to develop all these skills. So don't rush yourself too hard neither. And how to, what Delma told, okay, you are already busy promoting yourselves because you are involved in all these networks and organizations. And we, of course, we spread the word. If we hear a wonderful concert, or we see an ensemble who's doing things really like on a new way or an interesting way, we tell our colleagues. So but for me, don't send the program to promoters. Send your, in very small, no romance. We have no time to read novels or something. Just bullet wise. I don't care if it's clear and the message is passionate and whatever, convincing, then sorry, I don't find my words. then it helps, I think. I hope for you. So good luck.
Yeah, and I would like just to add to that as Delma and Veerle both said about building the local connection first, and then going from there to the national, then to the international aspect. Nowadays, everything is so visual. So if you have a good website, good social media, good promotional pictures, videos, whatever, and everything looks nice and cool, I mean, it's essential in my opinion nowadays, because just like Veerle said, we get to be in touch, or we are approached by so many all the time, and then if we want to look into something, it needs to like strike immediately, that you get hooked. So the story, the bullet points, those are important for sure.
Thank you very much, Veerle, Delma, Johannes, also all the ensembles here. We have still a couple of minutes, and it is very nice to listen to your ideas and to your advices for the ensembles. But I would like to finish this ECOS Lab, not only this one, but also listening to you, because we have talked about demographical challenge. We are in the middle of Serra Espuña, where the culture is it's hard to arrive to Serra Espuña from a lot of parts of Europe. We talked yesterday about transport. So we talk about but not only that, but also how to arrive with music, with culture, with connect, how to connect our international. This is an example of how to connect from the local communities here in Serra Espuña to the rest of the world. Also the ensembles that are here, we have talked about the demographical challenge, sustainability and diversity. I would like to listen to you one last 1 or 2 minutes ideas of why do we do that? Why are we talking about diversity, sustainability, and demographical challenge? And how do we want the early musical sector and our society to be? Or how do we want it to be in 10 years, in 25, 50 years? This is, I guess, the challenge, that we have a lot of power with our communication. We can put the focus on that, but what is this for? Delma, if you want to be the first to talk.
We have many more things to challenge us than we've been able to talk about today. Climate change, the issues around energy, how it is that as a society we change over the next few years. And that clearly will involve all of us as promoters and as artists. It may be that actually the local becomes much more significant than the national or international touring has been. We are going to have to think very seriously about how we're not traveling so much. That's pretty difficult for musicians, and part of a discussion perhaps for a different day. It's too big, and in a way it's perhaps just a little bit too daunting as to just how we all deal with it. But the challenge for the next 5-10 years is to make ourselves indispensable, really, to be part. I go back to this sense of the community, to work to support younger people, of course, in their music making, to develop new audiences, but to work to support people's engagement in their own cultural environment, so that you're supporting people whilst you can through music making in their mental health and their physical health. We're not isolated from our community, and I think that's going to get more pronounced as we go through the next few years. And as to whether there'll still be festivals and the rest of it in 10, 15, 20 years, well, we've lasted this long, so I'm sure we'll find a way through. But sure as something or other, we all need to work together for these very complicated challenges which are just over the horizon, and the economy, as I say, and climate change and energy. So probably time for coffee.
Thank you, Johannes. Thank you, Delma. Sorry. Thank you, Delma. Johannes, what do you think?
Well, if I'll start from that where I see early music sector in the next decade or 2 or 50 years or whatever, I hope that it is thriving. It's more inclusive every way, more diverse every way. But the sustainability aspect is of course over there, because just as Delma said, I mean, we all have to face the challenge and the idea that we, by touring and having international guests and all that, it's something that is not very sustainable in the end. So the local aspect comes. I think within the pandemic, we have already kind of adjusted to the fact, and we have also learned to appreciate maybe a bit more the local community, the power in the localness and all that. But then again, it's a challenge that we need to tackle. Luckily, or unfortunately, how you want to see it, in a crisis, there's always a possibility and chance to change things, to come up with new solutions and innovations. But what was the first question, Jorge, that you asked again? I'm sorry, I already forgot.
The question is, why do we do this? Why are we working on diversity, sustainability, and demographical challenge? And how do we want the early music sector and the society to be in the next 10, 25, and 50 years?
I mean, like I said before, it's very important that we keep doing what we do. We keep telling these stories, and the fact that, as I said, it can have a huge impact on someone to see you perform, to give a performance that just strikes them. Music can move you in so many ways. It can give you comfort. It can give you happiness, joy. It can make you let your emotions come through. And as I think it was Alia Cornishmore from Dublin who said in Valencia back in June about the fact that with early music, there's always this idea that we are a bit like time travelers. We make a part of history come alive in front of the audience. We recreate moments lost and hidden in time and history. And I think that in times like these, when there's a war in Europe, when I mean, there are moments of great sadness and despair, and then again, even censorship and all these things like fake news, the era of fake news, there has to be a way to bring happiness. There needs to be a way to do research in musicology or early music or whatever it is, but to keep these facts and tell these good stories. And I hope that within early music, what might change a little bit, I hope that we get to engage with the new audiences, and I hope that we get to maybe loosen up a little bit, because sometimes, I mean, it feels that it's a bit too strict sometimes with some things. The audience maybe expect something, and then you hope that you get to reach those expectations. But then again, I hope that we as promoters get to have the chance to bring up to showcase these new emerging ensembles and give them the space and room to perform and change the world through music. Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes, very much. And before we leave, Veerle, if you want to say a couple of words.
Yeah, just short. I think you asked why do we do this, and I think we all are care for the community, society. We all are so idealistic in what we are doing, I think, and I think we just feel responsible. So I think that's why we keep on fighting for the better society, environment, whatever. I think that's what is behind our daily dealing. So I think whatever happens, the local community and can count on us. I think that's what's driving me in keep being involved and keeping involved in all these things, because we care, I think. But I really have to leave because I have an interview on the radio now. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Veerle. Thank you,
luck.
Delma. Good luck also to you in your countries. Thank you, Johannes, Delma, Veerle, and thank you these amazing ensembles that have been here talking about the ECOS Lab. We will continue probably next year with new challenges and new faces. And also we invite you here in Sierra Espuña, you have your home. Goodbye.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.